day today because I too am going to be hearing this person's life history from the time he was a baby. It's a fascinating life history, and the reason that I decided to do it was because everybody said, you got to get Kip Dennis because he's got the most interesting story of how he came to be what he is today. And what he is today is an everything man. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kip Dennis, and he's going to start out telling you the story of his entire life. I hope it doesn't take 5 years because it's fascinating life. Go.
You want me to start at birth?
If that was the beginning, what did your mother do?
My mother had 3 master's degrees, and she also had a paralegal degree. My dad was a colonel in the Army and a very prominent lawyer.
No kidding.
I'm the youngest of what was originally 4.
Uh-huh.
And I grew up in the burbs of New York, Long Island.
Oh, no. Oh, really?
I was born in Queens and raised in Long Island.
Now, you see, this usually doesn't happen. We don't usually have a guy who's from Queens. Okay, go on.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm from Queens. I guess, they condemned the hospital as soon as I was which is true.
Really? It is
yes.
true.
Used to be on Union Turnpike. But, right. And I went to college in Pennsylvania, Franklin Marshall College. And I wound up
What were you studying?
I had 2 majors. One was history and one was Spanish. And so when I was in school, I lived in Madrid with a family.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah. I didn't study there, but it was strictly to learn the culture, the language, customs, traveled with the family and such.
No kidding. So
Yeah.
you were like the child of the family.
Kind of, yeah. And there were other students there too.
Mhm.
And so I graduated, and then my parents were furious with me because I wanted to go into film production, and I was not going to graduate school. So my dad gave me until the end of that summer that I graduated, to get a job. And very long story short, which I won't go into, by the end of the summer, I had no job, and I found Otto Preminger, the film director.
What do you mean you found him?
I had wound up going to Columbia Pictures, which I believe was on 57th Street and 5th, I think, if I remember correctly. That was my last stop of the summer. And the guy at Columbia Pictures said that I needed to go to LA because at that time they weren't shooting in New York very much. And he said, I have an idea for you, Otto Premingers in this building. Why don't you go up and see him?
Oh my God.
So I went, and I'm sweating like I looked like a drowned rat. And so I remember going to the elevator bank thinking, do I go up or do I go down? And then I just figured, what the hell, either he's going to kill me or my father will. So I had nothing to lose. So I went up there, and it was interesting because kind of a narrow-ish, as I remember correctly, or if I remember correctly, the waiting room, and there was a half wall and glass, and he had all these beautiful young women working for him. And I came slithering in, soaked with sweat. And the receptionist said, may I help you? And I said, well, I'm here to see Mr. Preminger. She said, are you an actor? And I said, if he wants me to be. I said, I was referred to him by Columbia Pictures.
Oh, wonderful.
Totally lied. And so they had me sit. And 2 of these women, they came out with a roll of paper towels, and they were blotting me.
Were you sweating just because you were nervous?
Totally. And it was also very warm also.
Uh-huh.
And they then had me see Mr. Preminger's, I guess his executive assistant. I think his name was Mr. Kaufman, if I recall. Mm-hmm. And he said, Mr. Dennis will keep your resume on file, and we'll call you if anything opened up, because they just hired somebody. And I've been hearing that all summer. So this is I think it was probably the first time where my mouth started moving and words started coming out, and the brain couldn't believe what the mouth was saying.
What were you saying?
I went nuts. And I said, what do you mean you're going to keep my resume on file? You're going to throw it in the circular file. It's going to be garbage. I said, I'm not going to hear from you. And I said, I didn't come here to see you anyway. I said, I came here to see Mr. Preminger, and I'm not leaving until I do.
My gosh, that's so amazing. Because that's something that an actress did that I know, but go on.
And so I don't know how they didn't arrest me, to tell you the truth. And he called Preminger, and Preminger said, send him in. And so I went to see Otto Preminger, and he was very nice. And he said, I just hired somebody. I said, you can use another one. And so he said, I think I can. And he said, all right, on my next picture, you're going to work on it. And I went, wow. And a little preface. At that time, I had gone to NYU Tisch during the summers for film classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I met this kid, his name was Scott Bevan, B-E-V-A-N.
Mm-hmm.
And he came from a very interesting family because his father's name was Donald Bevan, who co-wrote the play and film Stalag 17.
Oh my.
And Otto Preminger had a role in that film, actually. He played the commandant.
Oh.
The film with
Oh, he did play the
William Holden.
Yeah.
Scott, this kid's, and also his father was a very famous caricaturist. If you go to Sardi's, most of the caricatures in Sardi's are done by Donald Bevan.
Oh my goodness.
His mother was an actress named Patricia Kirkland.
I know her.
Okay, her mother was a silent movie actress, Nancy Carroll. And her father was, I forget his name, Kirkland. He wrote the play Tobacco Road.
Oh my God.
So, and his half sister was Jelsie Kirkland of the ballet.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So by this time, Pat Kirkland's, his mother, was the head of casting, daytime casting at CBS. And she was helping me. She was so nice all throughout that summer, trying to get me into CBS and trying to make entrees for me. So when I got the job with Preminger, I thought I had the job, I went over to Pat Kirkland and she said, oh, tell me about it. She was all excited. And I said, it's with Otto Preminger. She let out such a shriek and screamed, and using, I can't tell you the obscenities. And she said, you run in the opposite direction, that son of a bitch. And she said, he's horrible. And 22 years old, I thought I was going to have a stroke right on the floor of CBS daytime casting. And she said, why do you want to be in the shitty business anyway?
She said this to you after you've been trying. She's been trying to help you the whole time.
She said, go to graduate school.
My God.
Anyway, it turns out that Preminger's next film was being shot in England. And they didn't hire me and pay for me to go over there. They were going to hire somebody in London. So in the interim, I got another job, a job in another film production company here in New York called Trio Productions. And I worked primarily with a wonderful director named Newt Nitzman, who was terrific. And I was there for like 3 or 4 years. And there were 3 partners. And unfortunately, the 3 partners decided they didn't like each other anymore. And so...
Well, what happened with the relationship? Your father wanted you to do something else. What happened?
He was thrilled that I had a job.
Oh, it didn't matter what it was a job.
Well, they would have preferred that I had gone to graduate school, get a professional degree, but they were fine. Mm-hmm. He didn't throw me out of the house.
Were you still living at home?
I was.
Oh, wonderful. This happens a lot of the time. Yeah, go on.
I was commuting from Long Island into the city. And I worked with some very interesting people while at Trio Productions. They dissolved the company, so I went over to McCann Erickson Advertising.
McCann Erickson. Oh my gosh. I used to know somebody at McCann Erickson. But go on. I mean, that was
who knows, maybe we
What did you do there?
I was an assistant. I'm trying to remember. They called me a production assistant or assistant producer. My job was what was called a floater. I would float from, they had maybe 8 different producers. Mm-hmm. And one of my jobs was to make sure that when we shot commercials, actors who were extras weren't unintentionally being upgraded to principals. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the standard was if an actor is readily recognizable and reacting to the product, they had to be upgraded.
Right, because that happened to me with something called bonus soap. But go on.
Oh, okay. And it wasn't a very enviable position to be in because some producers were fine with it. There were a couple, one in particular, who was so horrific. And every time I would say to her, you can't do that, And so when she would scream at me, no, no, no. She was a horror story. And I will say that one commercial I was working on with her was for Coca-Cola. And this is back in the day where the disco was really big. And there was a young guy and a young girl, and they're dancing. That was what the storyboard read. And they're building up a thirst. And the only thing that's going to help them is an ice cold Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And at the end of the commercial, there was a product shot.
Uh-huh.
And the girl and the guy, they're supposed to reach in and grab a bottle out of frame, take it out of frame. So in the ninth hour, this producer decided that she hated this kid's hands, the guy. And she goes, we got to find somebody else. We got to find somebody else. And she looks at me and she goes, you. I said, me? She said, let me see your hands. Loved my hands. I said, you can't use me. I'm not Screen Actors Guild. You can't do this. That was part of my job, make sure we didn't violate SAG rules. And she said, started cursing me out. You're going to do as you're told and everything. And meanwhile, somebody grabs my hand. And as I'm arguing with her, they're giving me a manicure. So it turns out I did it. I know I violated Screen Actors Guild regulations, but to be a little off color, I tell people that was my first hand job.
Oh, dear God.
So, but I was pretty miserable there. And I decided advertising was not for me.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted feature film production and such. And so I said, the hell with this. And so I went to law school.
I just, now the connection to me is like, I can't understand. You said you didn't like this, you wanted to be a film, and so you went to law school?
I decided that I needed something stable in my life.
Uh-huh.
Because as we know, show business is not the most stable profession. And so I made a deal with myself that if I was going to do that, I was still going to pursue what I really wanted, which was film production, but I particularly liked writing and composing music. And
composing music, now this came from left field. Where did that come from?
I started piano when I was 6. And I took lessons until I was like 13. And then I started again when I was in college. And when I was working in advertising and when I went back to law school, I started studying again with a teacher who was with Manhattan School of Music. I wasn't going for a degree or anything, but I wanted...
You just studied with that person.
Right.
Do you remember the name?
Yes, her name was Beverly Rosenstock Thompson. Uh-huh. And she was married. There was a very famous Broadway conductor, Milton Rosenstock.
Oh, sure.
And she was one of his wives. And she was great. I really liked her a lot. And I learned a lot. And so, and then when I was in law school, I was doing that. And when I wasn't studying, I decided to do stand-up comedy.
I mean, this is why I invited this man to come today, is because this is something that we all have to learn to do. And truly, as an actress, this is something that this is why conversations with colleagues started. When you are not in the right place, you have to find the right place. And he keeps finding the right place for himself, which is extraordinary because there's music, there's law, there's this, there's that, and he keeps doing it. And this is what is so important for everybody who is in this business. You can't wait for somebody else to do it for you. So you can now finish your story. Go on.
No, that's true. You see, well, I left a little piece out. Actually, before I started doing stand-up, I took acting classes. And I was supposed to be in an off-Broadway production of the play Beyond Therapy by Christopher Durant.
Oh, sure, I know.
And
did you audition for Christopher?
No.
Okay.
And it was going to be done in some church in the village or whatever it was, which was fine because, I had no real experience in that regard. And unfortunately, 2 weeks before the show was supposed to open, one of the producers, quote, unquote producers, ran off with the money.
Oh.
So everybody was bummed out. And my friend said, well, why don't you try stand-up? And I was terrified.
Well, who wouldn't be? Oh, my God.
So back in those days, there was a periodical, I'm not sure if it's still around, called The Learning Annex.
Oh, sure.
It was a brochure, and they had a listing of every conceivable course in every discipline.
I taught it. I taught
Oh, did you?
acting class there. Yeah, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So there was a class in stand-up comedy, and it said that at the end you got 5 minutes at a club on the Upper West Side called
No
Stand Up New York.
kidding. No kidding.
So I did it, and I did my 5 minutes, and it went over really well. So I took the class again to get another 5 minutes, and I did my new 5 minutes. And the then owner of the club, his name was Carrie Hoffman, and he came over to me and he said he liked my material. Would I come back? And so he kept on inviting me back and inviting me back, and he was just a wonderful guy.
And you had to keep changing your material.
I kept on increasing it, and he gave me up to I was almost up to 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, and then from there, I also was at the Improv.
You were at the Improv? My gosh.
With Silver Friedman. Do you remember her?
Sure.
Silver Friedman. She was great, and I did it at the Comic Strip too, and so forth. And I did it for about 3 or so years. But by that time, I was out of law school. I was starting a law career.
This is so amazing that you're doing stand-up while you're studying law.
Well,
I just don't.
Everyone knows law is full of it's a bunch of yucks.
Did you take the law exam also?
You mean the bar exam?
Bar exam.
Oh, sure.
While you're doing stand-up.
Well, no, I think I put that aside because when you study for the bar, that's all you do is study for the bar exam.
Yeah.
And but that's after the 3 years of law school. But I took entertainment law. I took a wonderful couple of classes with a music lawyer. His name was Marty Silfen, who was very big in the music industry. And then I took the bar and passed. And I actually took it twice. And
it reminds me of my mother. This is so funny. My mother was very proud of her children, her grandchildren, and everything else. And when John did not pass his, but her grandson passed, she said, Beckett passed his bar exam. Someone else did not. But go on.
Yeah, I would remember I missed it by like 3 points or whatever the first time around. And so the State Board of Examiners allowed people to go to Albany to review their test paper to see what they did right, what they did wrong, and everything. And it was a whole bunch of people met at, I guess it was Penn Station, and it was like the failure train. It was the most depressing journey. It's like, oh God, a bunch of losers going to Albany. But I took it the second time with a different review course, and I passed. And then I worked actually for my uncle. One of my uncles had a nice large firm and a reasonable sized firm, I guess. And so I did general practice litigation and transactional work while I was still studying music. And I started writing.
It's just amazing. It's so wonderful because a musician usually are mathematics. They're very good at mathematics. I didn't know that musicians were also good at law.
Well, I was a math major for about 10 minutes in college. I was very good in math in high school. In New York State, they have what are called the Regents exams, and they're the standardized final exams. And I aced every one of them in math. So I thought I was going to be like this great mathematician till I took, differential calculus. And that almost made me, throw myself out the window. So yes, I changed. But as I said earlier, I made a deal. If I was going to do law, I was going to still keep up with my creative work. And so I was always of a mind that if you really want to do something, you'll find the time to do it. And not to say that it was so easy all the time. It wasn't. But I wrote my first musical while I was practicing law. Had nothing to do with law, and that was done in concert in a couple of venues here in New York.
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't the greatest in my opinion, but it was a nice start. And then the firm that I worked for, they lost a couple of huge clients, and so they downsized. And so I was the last associate to go. And so I started my own practice, and
Ah,
and I did that, or tried to do that. It was tough going. And then I became a judge with the city of New York, an
now this
administrative
is
law judge.
incredible. You see, I had to do this. I mean, I had to show this. This is crazy. Go on. You became a judge.
Yeah, anything to pay the bills.
My God. Who assigned you the judgeship?
It was an administrative law judgeship, and originally, the way the city was set up, each agency had its own tribunal. Meaning, the health department had its own tribunal, Department of Consumer Affairs had its own tribunal, Environmental Control Board, and so on.
So what were you?
And so I started at what was called the Environmental Control Board, and I was doing it per diem. So I was just working a couple of days a week, and I was hearing cases involving violations of the New York City Administrative Code as they pertain to what were called the quality of life regulations, meaning, keeping the sidewalks clean, not jumping turnstiles, that level. And which unfortunately those laws have not been enforced in many years, to our detriment, I think. And then the Department of Consumer Affairs, I started working for them a few days a week, and they said, please come and work for us full time. And so I primarily adjudicated violations of the consumer protection laws, and a lot of construction law, actually, involving
Really?
construction.
With the
Home
guy-
improvement contracting
the
and
guys,
things
the
like that.
scary guys with the mafia?
Well, they could be, could have been, but these were not criminal prosecutions. These were civil cases where a homeowner was suing in this tribunal a home improvement contractor, and so forth. But there are a lot of other types of cases I heard as well, and also I heard some health department cases. I think the most involved concerned, I believe it was Mount Sinai Hospital, and it concerned the storage, application, usage, and tracking of radioactive isotopes in the hospital for treatment of cancers.
Oh my
And
God.
I remember I came to the tribunal, and I had no idea. My staff said, here's your next case. And it was like
Oh my God.
a stack of violations like this big. And I looked at the violations, and then I looked at the law, and it was like taking a crash course in nuclear physics. I mean, it was like, all about radioactive uptake and, iodine uptake with the thyroid and so on and so forth. And where all those violations stemmed from was there had been a very disturbing case where a woman who was being treated for, I guess it was bronchial or lung cancer, was being treated. It was a method called brachytherapy, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, where they put a radioactive isotope in like a glass tube, and it would go down the throat. And unfortunately, there was a woman who was being treated, and there had been like a very, very fine crack in the glass.
Oh my God.
And a part of the radioactive isotope broke off and lodged in her esophagus, I think. And I think the lady died. And so there was a federal case, and then all the laws federally and statewide, in states, changed their laws. So they were very stringent in terms of the inventory of all these things.
Oh, terrible.
So it certainly opened up my eyes a lot, to.
Yeah. Have you ever played a judge on Law and Order?
No, nobody. I haven't been asked yet. But the commissioner of the agency appointed me director of the adjudication division, which was good, but it was also hell on earth because I had to manage people who, I guess the analogy would be herding cats. Trying to herd cats. I mean, some people, and they were in the unions, weren't doing their jobs. Commissioner, and by this time I was working under Michael Bloomberg, who was the
Wow.
mayor. The commissioner reported to him, and I reported to the commission. And
Did you know him at all?
Michael Bloomberg?
Yeah.
I see him all the time because I'll tell you why. I met him when I was working, and then my job ended in 2014 when de Blasio became mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually eliminated my whole division, and they consolidated all of these agency tribunals into one main tribunal called OATH, which stands for the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings. And so I lost my job, but my friends, I have friends who are
In high places.
billionaires. My friend is one of Michael Bloomberg's partners, where they all developed, there were 4 total, developed Bloomberg News. And so my friend and his wife asked me to come help run their family philanthropic foundation. So now, before all that happened, I wrote another show, another musical, which we got as far as the New Jersey rep. The show was called Stage and Screen.
Mm-hmm. Was that the one Diane read for?
Diane Finley was in my stage reading, and she's on my studio cast album, which is on my website.
I'll only tell the story as you want it to be told.
But in 2014, from 2014 to 2020, I had a number of bad years, unfortunately. I started working for my friend's philanthropic foundation as their program director and counsel, which was a phenomenal experience because I had the opportunity to meet and work with the biggest geniuses internationally in all different disciplines, you know, in medical research and the arts.
Isn't that wonderful? And
it really, really was an opportunity of a lifetime. And so I started writing again and started, and then after the pandemic, started studying music again with a teacher at, she's with the New School, Manus College of Music. And I actually now started stand-up again. I decided to take classes, and Second City opened up a wonderful club in Williamsburg.
Oh.
And they have wonderful classes there. And so I took 2 semesters. And I started doing stand-up again.
So I remember the first time I was going to London, and he asked me, what are you going to do when you get there? First thing. And I said, well, I'm going to get myself on one of those hop-on, hop-off buses, you know, to get the lay of the land. And he says to me, what makes you think she'll be on the bus? There's going to be a quiz. Okay.
Is that where you met Alex?
Well, no. A friend of mine who lost her husband met Alex in a bereavement
senior
group,
thing.
in a bereavement group.
Oh, yeah.
And so my friend, her name's Robin, told me about Alex. She said, Alex does stand-up, why don't you meet her? We met, and we decided to take the classes together. And we kind of pal around and just stand up, you know, go to different open mics and such. And then, I don't know, a few months ago I started, because I now have incorporated some music in my, original music in my stand-up.
Oh, really? That's great.
So I'm taking vocal lessons from, through a recommendation from Diane Finley.
That lady who's her teacher.
She's terrific, wonderful.
Great. Now, in other words, you'd have to sing a cappella.
No.
Oh.
Most of the clubs do not have keyboards. So I recorded on my piano, digital piano. And when I do the music, I take a Bluetooth speaker and I have it on my phone for the accompaniment. And
not only do you have to know everything, but you also have to know how to use those machines. And well, all of this is stuff that I do not know how to do, but it's okay. That's why I have a wonderful Dante or Peppy. Or, you know, these boys take very good care of Aunt Kathy, I must say. I tell you, if I didn't have my team we would have a terrible problem because, it's just
Well,
unbelievable.
it's very daunting. I mean, I have a website now, which is kipdennis.com, and I have, excerpts from my stand-up,
Mhm,
as well as I have 10 selections from the Studio Cast album, Stage and Screen,
mhm.
and I've written some new stuff which I'm going to put on. But our mutual friend Peppy set up my website for me and so forth.
Amazing.
And whenever I want to add something, I have to call him, or else I have to find like a 5-year-old in my building who knows who knows this technical stuff.
It's
Because
so awful.
I
mean, it really is. I sit here. It's appalling. It's appalling that I do not. This afternoon before you came, I got an email from somebody, and I gave my phone to Dante, and I said, "Do this for me, please." Now, not only that, but I can't see very well, so there's a problem because if you can't see and then you have to do this. Forget, it's not about me. This was about you. But I have to say that the thing that is so wonderful about this man, and I'm so pleased that we decided to do this, we all can learn so much here. He was thrown against the wall when he heard his whatever this thing is and everything else. That gave him time. The brain needed time to create something new. And now he's creating something new and he's doing stand-up. It's an exciting life. We should all have exciting lives. We all should do it. My husband used to say to me, he used to say, make the effort. And you've made the effort. And it's absolutely wonderful that you've been able to do our conversations with colleagues and that you have such a wonderful life. I'm so impressed
thank you.
meeting you.
I mean, I just finished a new screenplay,
See?
which it's supposed to be pitched to a huge agent in LA. So I'm trying to make sure it's the best it can be, but it's the best thing I think that I've ever written. And so we will see.
Is there a part for an older woman, for God's sake? Get yourself together.
Talk to me.
It's so funny.
We'll chat.
All of this whole thing is always that so funny. So is there a part for you?
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, I'm very impressed, and I'm very happy that you have allowed us to come in on your life, and I just know it's going to keep going on and better and better and better.
From your lips to God's ears. That's all I can say.
Everybody, learn this. We will talk in the future.
Thank you.
That was great. That was great.